The start always gets me. Okay. We should just start here and go because okay. I'm sorry. Okay. What's up, guys? How you guys doing? We're having a hard time getting started, but we're just going to go for it because we just had a laugh attack. How's everybody doing? I know that a bunch of you guys went up to TJ and Shayla this weekend and told them.
I'm like, can people answer you? Like,
this is how you make people feel engaged. They feel like they're in the room. This is a strategic.
How do they know which weekend they came up and told us that
it's a question mark. Why are you putting me on the spot? We already started. They're not going to edit this out. You're making me look bad. I'm learning. This is like a learning experience.
You're doing great, Kelly.
Thank you. All right. After that rough start, okay, I am going to choose to stay offended with you guys right now.
You're going to choose to stay offended?
Choose to stay offended now. I'm actually kidding, but that's a segue. You see how I did that there? Because what are we talking about today? About how people are easily offended.
Yeah.
I did that well. What do you think? Good? Okay. Debatable. Okay. So I'm going to start with something light. I'm going to bring up a few things, and you're going to tell me if these things offend you or not. Obviously, I'm kidding because I know they don't really offend you, but chewing with your mouth open.
I'm not offended, but I think it's disgusting.
Shayla?
I don't care. Although my grandma used to do that, and I used to get grossed out by it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're ever out to dinner with you guys, be conscious. Okay. Being late.
Oh.
I'm not offended. I just will leave.
What's your
I lose
cutoff?
respect for people.
Yeah. Well, what's your cutoff? Like, I've been waiting and I'm going to go.
15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay.
That's pretty graceful.
Yeah. At that time, it's like, they are dead to me.
Like, I'll stay up to minute 14, but you're dead to me.
Yeah.
When you get there, you're just...
It's over.
Dirty shoes.
Ooh, it happens to everybody. So I'm not offended by that, but I hate it when my shoes get dirty. So
I feel like TJ, that's his hobby on a Saturday morning. He's like, I'm going to go clean my shoes.
He will take Colin's shoes, like her daycare shoes, and he'll be at the sink
Meanwhile, Shayla's just
we could just get new ones. Those things are like $10.
I just want my girl to have clean shoes. I feel like
meanwhile, the soles are coming off.
Your feet look good. Everything else it helps everything.
It puts everything together.
It puts everything together.
All right. Last one, a bad outfit.
Nah, I don't judge.
Yeah, it's hard today because what I would consider a bad outfit, they consider stylish. So, yeah. I mean, how do I even know?
We're probably behind the curve on those things.
Yeah.
We've also all done it, right? Where you look at a picture and you're like, ooh.
What was I thinking?
Oh, it was a bad call.
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Especially you're on video from 10 years ago. So I'm sure you've had one that you're like, this didn't age well.
There's a lot that didn't age well.
All right. So today we're going to talk a little bit about why it seems like we live in a society where people are offended about a lot of things. And obviously we're kidding about being late, and you keep saying I'm not offended but this, I'm not offended but this, but I think in general we kind of live in I almost want to say a hypersensitive society. So I guess my question is, do you agree? It seems like you both do because you're shaking your head. And why do you think that's where we're at? Why are we here? What's going on?
I mean, I think to some level, everyone feels like they have a platform and a voice now. And so you can just say whatever your truth is or your, whatever. And then somebody else reads it and that's not the same thing that they agree with. And then you can go back and forth online and comments and all that kind of stuff. And it's easy to disagree, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of finding things that we agree on. So I think online presence probably makes it more prevalent. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, this is where I get in trouble.
We know.
Oh, boy. Well, don't get yourself in trouble.
I don't know how to
way.
say it.
Just say it. Shayla's like, think of your words. And I'm like, just let it out.
It's that,
Everybody's sensitive.
well, I was going to say it differently than that.
I know. That's why I'm trying to give you the
participate.
words.
But what I'm going to say is going to offend people. So we're talking about not being offendable, so don't be offended. But every idiot has a voice.
Yeah.
And when people just, everybody thinks they're right, it's always going to cause massive disagreement. And massive disagreement is going to create bitterness. And bitterness is always going to create offense. And then there's just barriers.
Yeah.
Do you think, now maybe I'm going to say something, but do you think that, that's going to offend people, but do you think that it has anything to do with, like, you know, today everybody gets to win, everybody gets an award, everybody feels like they're special, you know, like everybody, you know, the other day we were playing a card game with the kids and, you know, I won the card game because, you know, beat my 10-year-old and 7-year-old.
Yeah.
And
You
they
don't
were
let 'em
like,
win.
we're this, no, we got to compete.
Right.
And it was, I'm the second winner, I'm the third winner. No. There's a winner, and you two lost. We're not all winners.
Right.
So I'm like, do you think that that has anything to do with kind of where we are, where we feel like we need to, you know, tell everybody that oh, you're right in this, or I see your point, where sometimes no, like I don't see your point. No, you didn't win. No, you're not. You know, I tell my kids, you're special in here. Out there, you got to earn your junk, you know, like, do you think that has anything to do with it, or?
I think you should teach a parenting course.
We agree.
How to raise losers. No, I'm just kidding.
How to raise losers. No.
No, I do think that there is a contributing factor to that. I think it's interesting. I was actually reading about this. I'd sent Shayla a direct message on, there's a guy I follow named Steve Magnusis. Is that how you say his last name? And he's a performance coach, and he's done a lot of research on kids, and especially with devices and different things. And the fact that there isn't struggle has created the inability to cope. And when you can't cope, then you escape or you lash out. And because we've never learned how to cope, because we're always putting something to satisfy that in our hands, or that's our natural response here today. And I think that has a lot to do with it. It is the idea like, oh man, we didn't win. I have to live with the fact that I'm not a winner. But we don't let kids do that. No, we tell them just like
failure is the best teacher.
Failure is the best teacher. It's like, oh, well, that means I've got to work harder. I've got to do more. I've got to perform better. No, we're not giving them those opportunities because we're trying to satisfy that need without letting them struggle.
Well, and
I think that plays out into adulthood now. We have people that can't hold jobs. It's always somebody else's fault. So we end up with a blame system, which is where I think a lot of that comes from. It's nobody's ever responsible for their life. It's always somebody else's fault that they're in the situation they're in. And when you do that, then, well, if it's their fault, then they must have done. So now I've got offense because it's nothing I did. It's something they did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Do you agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah.
I think it trickles over. Even, you take that into school environments or anything like that. I think there's a lot of times parents step in, maybe their kid is failing and we want to blame it on something else. And we're going in and trying to, no, the kid just didn't do the work or whatever. And we're looking for places to place blame or anything like that. And it just is perpetuating an issue. I also think in this day and age, we think that if someone doesn't agree with us, that they must hate us. That's good. And if you don't agree with me, then we're at odds with each other, instead of just we can agree to disagree, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I hate you. It doesn't mean that I don't value your opinion. It doesn't mean that I don't want to listen to you. It just means I don't agree with you.
Yeah.
And I think people don't know how to disagree well.
Yeah. And do you think that as pastors.
Mm-hmm.
I should probably ask TJ this one specifically because he's an expert at offending people. No, I'm kidding. But do you,
true.
yeah, do you feel like you're ever like, I mean, you speak and you're giving a message, you too, and somebody goes and sends an email like, you said this and it offended me, right? Like, I'm sure.
Oh,
sure.
I had people over Easter weekend. Well, not people. I had a person come up and told me that they didn't like how I did some things and stories I told, and I shouldn't do that, and that was wrong. Like, they were offended.
Yeah.
And I just looked at them and I said, "You're a Christian, right?" They're like, "Yeah." I said, "Man, this weekend, over like probably 500 people have gotten saved. Why are you concerned about that?"
Mm-hmm.
And they just kept on. And I was just like, "I appreciate your comment, but I'm not changing a thing."
Yeah.
And I turned around. I didn't like,
Well, it's disagreement.
I knew that there was nothing I could say
Right.
that was going, and they were upset. I'm not going to change them being upset.
Yeah.
I said what I said, and it was an effective way of communicating the point I was trying to communicate. And it was effective in helping people see what I was trying to do in that moment.
Yeah. How do you deal with that? Like, do you ever find yourself like, oh, I'm not, maybe I'm not going to say this, or do you ever find yourself like taking a step back? Do you ever find yourself like with that in mind? How do you deal with that if you do? And if you don't,
I mean, I think there is two sides of that. There is like, at the end of the day, the Bible is the truth. It is God's word, and we live by God's word. And the Bible actually says that people will be offended. Like
The
Jesus
gospel
Christ
is
is going
offensive.
to be a tripping hazard for people, essentially. And so we know that. But at the end of the day, as pastors and leaders, we also filter through knowing that there's people sitting out there that aren't necessarily going to agree with what we say. And you want to make stuff somewhat like palatable for people to go, man, I might not agree with that, but that's a great point. And so there's these two sides of, I think, fleshing things out, but then there's a responsibility.
Yeah, I don't think, for me, I'm not trying to go and be offensive. Like, that's not the goal. That's not who I am or what I'm trying to accomplish. I think that's a weak way of trying to communicate.
Yes.
So I'm trying to be the most effective I can be. And sometimes in effectiveness, it's going to hit buttons in people.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. And anytime you touch a wound, people are typically going to scream.
Or do you think that there are right reasons to be offended as Christian? Like, are there things that should be offendable to us? I don't know if this falls under offense, but the story that comes to mind is when Jesus goes into the temple and they're using the temple as a marketplace, and he gets angry and he like flips I don't know if he gets angry, but I guess it was like a form of righteous anger, and he like flips tables or things like that. Do you think that there is a situation like that where there's this righteous anger or righteous offense, I'm going to say, that we should be taking or not?
Well, last time I checked, I'm not Jesus, so I'm probably not going and flipping tables. I think the context of that is really important, in the moment of that, in the fulfillment of prophecy and scripture is really important in that. I don't see that happening anywhere else in the New Testament. So I don't build a doctrine off of one instance. So I wouldn't build my entire case around why I would do something off of that particular scripture. And if you are, and that's the reason you're offendable, I would challenge you on that. That's not a great case. I think that there's moments when there's injustice, there's an indignation in your heart, but to take that out on people that did not participate in that injustice is not helpful. To lash out at people that were not a part of that offense is not, and that's what I see is when people do that, they're not actually that person. It's just everybody. And so that's I think that would be a key element to that. But I think that you'd have to be really spirit led in that moment. I don't know that I'm spiritual enough to really know that, could I really decipher between this is mine or this is God's?
Yeah.
And I like to think I have a pretty good relationship with God, and I would struggle knowing, hey, is this my indignation or is this from God? I mean, in reality.
Yeah. How do you know? And I mean, you said sometimes I don't, but what do you know? How do you know if something requires a response or not? Like I'm going to, while you guys think, I'm going to share a situation that happened the other day. I was in the office and, you know, I could hear, we have a big open space and I was in my office, but my door was open and they were talking. And I heard one person show another person a video and they're like, oh my gosh, can you believe this person has been like just got baptized, and they were all laughing. And I had just come off baptism weekend, which I love to do. It's like one of my favorite things. And I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like this is such a special thing. And these people, I didn't give a response. I'm like, I'm not going to go out and like make fun of, but a part of me was like, should I have said something or just, you know, how do you know what requires a response and what doesn't? And to clarify, I wasn't offended. It's not like I was mad at these people. It just like, it hurt my heart to hear that response out of ignorance, but like, not that I was like, how dare they, you know, like, but how do you know when something warrants a response or not?
I think that there's some aspects of that you know, I think a lot of times Christians want to hold non-Christians to levels that they haven't said that they're living those morals and values.
That's good.
And we get mad at people that are sinners who act like sinners. Like they didn't say
they're doing what they said they were going to.
They didn't say, "Hey, I'm choosing this way of life." They've chosen this way of life, and then we get upset that they're living that way. Well, that's why they don't know any different. Like I don't get mad at ignorance. I think if somebody in your situation, if somebody is a Christian and they're doing that, I know for myself, we had something with a staff member happen where a comment was said or whatever. I waited a day because I wanted to make sure, like in the moment, I don't ever want to go off of emotion.
Right.
So I let that sit with me for a day. And when I couldn't shake it, I was like, I need to go have a conversation. And so I went and had a conversation. Hey, help me understand. Like, hey, I'm your heart here was not in the right place. Like, let's talk about that. And I think it's easier. I wasn't necessarily offended by them, but it was something that was still stirring in my heart that I was like, we need to address this and figure out what's happening here.
And that's what I would say too. I think there's like, all of us can get offended by certain things. And you've said this in messages before. Being offended is like a momentary thing, or offense is a momentary thing. But then there's a place where we start to just live offended. And that's something that we carry with us. And so I think if whatever that moment is of like offense, if you start to carry that, then it's probably something that you need to start addressing. And I would say addressing, because this is living in your own heart. So in my opinion, it's seeking understanding or going to whoever it was that caused that offense and going with a heart of like understanding and reconciling that, not just to tell them that they offended me by this, but like, hey, help me understand what you meant by this, why you said this, you know, because I'm struggling and I'm living in this. But a lot of times we just want to, we've been offended, so now I want to go back at you because you're wrong. Yeah. Because I feel this way. Yeah. You know, and we have to be able to go with, I think, a heart of understanding. I think far too many people are not active listeners. They're not good listeners, where we listen to actually hear the heart of the person, not to respond with our, you know, frustrations. Yeah. And if we can learn to be like good, active listeners and hearing people's true heart, I think we can do a much better job at living unoffended.
Yeah. I think that's something I struggle with. A lot of times someone's talking to me and I'm already thinking about my response. And if I'm thinking about my response, then how well am I actually hearing that person? So that's something that I catch myself like interrupting mid-sentence. Let them finish. Like I haven't even heard them out before I've like made the, I'm already like formulating. So I'm already coming from a defensive place.
Yep.
I'm already not listening to their heart. Yeah, I'm a horrible human. I don't know.
We all do that. But I think it's an active practice in your life.
Yeah.
To be a good listener and to actually listen, not to respond, but to truly hear what the person's saying.
How do you think we live an unoffendable life? Like what are practical ways to remain unoffendable or unoffended?
I think the first one is just not to take yourself so seriously. I mean, at the end of the day, if you realize how much you've been forgiven of, I think it's really easy to forgive other people too. And I think we forget how far we've come. And when we start forgetting how far we come, then it's really easy to look at other people and hold things against them. I just always remember where I was when I found Christ, and I'm so grateful. Well, Christ found me. Love to say I found him, but he found me. But I just am always reminded of that moment, and it just makes it like, is this really that big of a deal? It just, in the grand scheme of things, it's not. And I want to live with a clean heart. Like Shayla was saying, offense is a moment. Offended is a decision.
Yeah.
So like that moment, I get a choice. What am I going to do with this?
Yeah.
And if I remember how much I've been forgiven of, I'm just gonna let go of that thing.
Yeah.
And there's just so much more joy in that. Like if you're just not that worried about other people and care that much, it's just way easier.
Yeah.
I actually feel bad for people that live with all that.
Yes.
I'm like, you're letting other people live rent free in your life, and they're holding you hostage.
Yeah.
And that's not hurting them. Like they've never even thought about that moment ever again.
Yeah.
But you've thought about it and ruminated on it for days, weeks, years, decades.
Yeah.
Well, I think too, like asking ourselves, what is this going to matter 5 hours from now or 5 days from now or 5 years from now? Yeah. Like, I think we might hear something in a moment, a political statement or something that we disagree with, and we get offended. And now we're looking at that person in a very different way. But like, what does that really hurt or help or do in the moment? So sometimes it's just like, okay, they're an idiot, whatever. Yeah. Like, let's just move on. That's that. But if I let that live with me, then I edit my interactions with that person. I edit, how I speak about them to other people. I edit, all of those things. But does that really help my life? 5 minutes, 5 days, 5 years from now? No, then let it go.
Do you think it's like a lack of spiritual maturity?
100%.
That was a quick answer.
but I also think that people are, I don't know how to word it. They think they're way more spiritual than they are. And I think there's some almost spiritual narcissists who think that they're like better than everyone else. And, why are you laughing?
I'm just thinking about a spiritual narcissist.
Can you think of a few people? No.
But I think people, again, they have information, but they don't have application in their life. And I have the knowledge, so I want to tell everybody else what to do, but I don't have the exercising of my faith or the application of my faith. And so, yeah.
And what would you say, like, how do I tell the difference if, like, okay, I'm offended or I'm just hurt, like, or I'm offended or this person I'm upset with this person, or I'm offended, but like, how do you tell the difference between, am I living in offense or am I hurt and, I don't know, keeping distance, or am I, Like, how do you tell the
I
difference
think
between the
kind of both in the same.
I think that hurt turns into offense.
It does.
Okay.
If you don't deal with
If you don't deal with
if you don't deal with it, like your past isn't your past if it's still impacting your present.
Mm.
So
if you're carrying it,
if you're carrying it,
days,
it's gone from
weeks.
hurt
Yeah.
to being an offense. Now it's actually blocking things. Before it was just a pain point. Now it's actually building up walls in your life that now you're think you're protecting yourself, but actually you're hiding yourself, your true self.
Mm-hmm.
And last time I checked, when we hid, it was in the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And hiding has never made us free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I truly think if people could just seek understanding insteid of, like,
But some people are, the understanding
Not
is
every time.
is
Not
not
every
going to
time.
fulfill it. I think it's living an open-handed life
Yeah.
of just going like, man, I'm just not,
I'm not going to hold on to
I'm
this.
not
Yeah.
holding on to things.
Yeah.
Like things they're gonna come and they're gonna pass through, because the moment I clamp down is the moment I lose out on anything else coming into this hand.
Mm-hmm.
And here's what I know: like if I have my hand open, sometimes there's gonna be things that are gonna deposit it are helpful. Sometimes people are gonna drop things in there that are hurtful. But here's when it's open-handed, it doesn't stay here.
Yeah. What do you think? I'm going to flip the table because we've been talking, not flip the table, I'm going to turn it
Jesus.
around. Yeah, sorry. So we've been talking about the offended, right? How do I know if I'm like constantly an offender and I need to hear that, or if people are just hypersensitive around me?
I think if everybody's saying something,
Listen.
there's some, it's the old thing where somebody's like, man, this person hurt me and this person hurt me and this person hurt me and
There's
this
a
person.
common
There's a
denominator.
common denominator. Maybe everybody else isn't just mean and hateful. Maybe something's not right here. And maybe I need to check this before I blame everybody else. Again, it goes back to the blame thing. Like, am I
feeling this way and it's your fault.
Am I
Yeah.
self-aware enough to go, what part do I play in this? Where did I miss?
Yeah.
What am I holding on to?
Yeah,
Do you agree?
I completely agree.
And how do you know if this is feedback that you need to take into consideration? Like if you come up to me and you're like, Kelly, you're not listening to, like, you don't listen well. And then TJ comes up to me and says, Kelly, you don't listen well. At what point am I like, they don't know what they're talking about? Of course I listen well. Or, man, I really need to like take this into consideration. You're saying if everybody's saying the same thing, then
I think you have to consider the source. Like I want that if the people that like I respect and look up to and like think are spiritually mature and all that are consistently telling me those things, then I'm listening to them. Now if it's
TJ?
TJ, like
We're
but
not
if it's
really worried.
other people that don't have high value in my life, like their voice doesn't matter as much. But if people that I respect and honestly, people that I don't, if I hear the same feedback consistently,
then maybe.
that's obviously how I'm coming across.
Yeah. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't take feedback from, there's a limited scope of people that I take feedback from.
Yeah.
Those are my sources of feedback. The other ones, like that,
Yeah.
it,
Until you've walked a mile in my shoes.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
See you later.
yeah. So there are people that their words matter a lot.
Yeah.
So if one of them was like, hey, you need to check this, I'd be like, man, I better check that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think we've mentioned this before in previous podcasts, and I think you've mentioned it in CLA, but a question that you say you guys sometimes will ask is like, what's it like being on the other side of me, right?
So do you want to know that right
no,
now?
I don't want
I'm
to know
just
that
kidding.
right now. That would be terrifying.
I'm just
I
kidding.
wouldn't want to
It's
be on the
actually
other side of
amazing
me.
being on the other side of
Don't
you,
try
Kelly.
and fix
You're
it
an
now.
encourager.
Don't fix it now. We know.
I will tell you something
I don't want
completely
to hear it from you. I'm fine. Thank you very much for. Wait, will you ask it back?
No.
I'm kidding. The other day, TJ was nice to me at CL, and I said, "Don't do this. Don't do. I'm very good with our relationship the way it was. Don't be kind. I like being bullied."
The feedback is you're not kind.
Yes. to me, but to everybody else, he's great. I'm kidding. So any final,
Kelly throws in "I'm kidding" when she needs to soften.
Well, because then people are going to think he's like really, even though he might be, but no. I do throw in my "I'm kidding" when I need to soften.
She is like my little sister kind of relationship.
Which means he picks on me and he's admitting it, right? No, but what's one other thing? And that offends me, by the way. No, I'm kidding. What's one thing? I'm kidding again. I need to stop with that. Okay, so what's one thing that you want to, like, I think we talked about being unoffended. We talked about offending, how we deal with that. What's one thing you would say? You said to live open-handed, but like maybe a final word of like, I would also say this. I'm going to say that as a parent, I have a really hard time sometimes trying to overprotect my kids. And I realize that does more harm to them than good. So I have to actively police myself to not intervene. Especially when it comes to like friendships, like if there's a little tat or something, I want to go in and be like, Dad, and it's like, this is not, they need to learn how to figure this out themselves. So that's an area that I'm like, man, I need to police myself. I need to actively work on this. Another question that I ask myself is, if this was coming from another source, would it hurt me as much? Meaning like, do I not like this because of the person it's coming from? Or do I not like this because I really don't think what is said has value? Right. So those are two things that I think like are practical things that I struggle with that I tell myself. That's great. Is there anything else that you guys say, hey, you talked about living open-handed, like just releasing things. Is there anything else that you would say, hey, I would add this?
I mean, it goes back to what Shayla said earlier. Will this matter
5 hours?
5 hours from now?
Yeah.
Or 5 years from now?
That's a good question.
Because I think in light of eternity, is this really that important of a thing? No. And most of the time, when you posed that question, it's like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
And I think that if we didn't take ourselves so seriously, like, it would help us a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. And just because this came to mind, sometimes we have to let things go without having a conversation, and sometimes they merit a conversation, right? But not every time does something deserve a response.
Sometimes you just need to let it go.
Yeah.
TJ always says, you can't fix stupid, you just love it.
That'd be a great
message.
It's
his motto in life.
It is my motto in
Helps
life.
him to live unoffended. That was stupid. You just gotta love
it. You can't fix it. You gotta love it. I like it. All right. Thank you guys very much. Thank you guys for joining us. We will see you again first Wednesday of every month. So we will see you next first Wednesday of the next month. Bye.